Okay, it's been months since I did my footstool here. And if you can recall, I gave it several coats of Danish oil on the surface and underneath to try to stop it from cracking, or at least to minimize the cracking. And yes, it did crack, and you can see this quite big one here. And this is not unexpected. I did expect it to crack because there's virtually no way to stop it from doing so because the wood was very wet when I cut it first time. Now the first way that I could do this is to just leave this crack in here as kind of a character thing and fix it with a dutchman or a bow tie. And that's a fairly popular way to fix these kind of things. The only problem with that kind of thing is that this is all end grain, which is going up like this, whereas the bow tie or the dutchman would be long grain, which is going across. Now, it probably wouldn't be that much of an issue with this, you know, the size of it and all that, but it's also a little bit more complex, and it gives it a look that I don't really want for this. So the other way to fix this is to actually fill in the crack. You could use epoxy that's been colored. The only problem with the epoxy that's been colored, once again, you're dealing with wood here, and it expands and contracts with moisture changes in the air, while the epoxy doesn't do that. So eventually that may fail or, you know, loosen up or fall out. So that's not really the best solution for me anyway. Another possibility, and this is the one I was leaning towards, was to cut another piece of wood that fits in here, which would also be end grain. And I could, you know, cut, say, walnut that'll be darker and really accentuate the repair here. And even though that's a better solution, because you're using wood that has the same expansion rate as the wood that's already here, it does draw attention to that crack, and that's something I want to avoid. So to fix this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this and try to force this crack back together. And the tool that I'm going to use to do that, and this will terrify some people I'm sure, is the jigsaw. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here where the crack starts to close together again, and I'm going to follow the existing crack that goes in and clean that material out. And I'm going to do this over and over and over again until I can eventually get that crack put back together. All right, with that first cut made, I'm going to get a clamp and I'm going to squeeze the crack back together again and then make the cut again. The only thing is I have to watch the clamp to make sure that I'm not cutting through the bar of the clamp with the jigsaw, because that would be bad. Okay, second cut, and now I can tighten the clamp again, and it just finished cracking, which is not unexpected either. You know, this is the chance you take, but not a bad thing overall. I'll continue on. What I'll do is I'll clamp it back together, and I'll just carry on like that didn't even happen. I guess this is cut number 4. As you can see, it's getting closer, but what I think I'm going to have to do before I make the final cut is to actually glue this back together, let it set overnight, and then recut that joint again tomorrow. The idea being that I'll have to make the cut from one side right through to the other. Got it clamped up and ready to go again for the next cut. One downside of using this jigsaw is it doesn't blow the chips away, so I've got to be constantly, with my face in front of it there, blowing on it, which is a little bit annoying. I'm pretty sure that this is the last cut that I have to make today, and it's basically just over on this side over here, which is pulled up tight right now. I've still got a little bit of a gap out on the edge here, but that'll be corrected with this cut and then the final cut I'll make tomorrow. So what I got is a little wedge here, and I'm just going to tap that in to keep that from collapsing right there as I make this cut over in the first of it. Okay, that looks like it. All I need to do now is glue the thing back together. And then, as crazy as it sounds, I'm going to cut that joint again tomorrow. And that way, it should go back together virtually seamless. Of course, what I'm going to be using to glue this up is polyurethane construction adhesive. If it wasn't the dead of winter here and cold is, I can't even describe how cold it's been lately. It's been cold. I could use regular wood glue for this and be able to do it quicker, but you know what, I'm not in a rush. I can wait overnight, so I'm just going to put a bead on here. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be spread out or anything, because it's all going to get cut out again. And I've already got it set up here to clamp together, as in I already, you know, clamped it together before I, you know, put the glue on here. And that's always a good idea. You want to get your clamps set up so that you don't mess around too much when you, even though you got a lot of open time with this glue, you still don't want to be messing around too much. And I can look at it and I can see that that joint looks good even now. I mean, I could probably get away with it. It's just open a very small amount over here, and all the way across there's a very small gap, but nothing that doesn't look out of place with this thing because of spalted maple. And there are also little tiny cracks in here already, but I can improve upon it, and so that's why I'm going to cut it again tomorrow. Okay, it is the next day. I just took the clamps off, and as you can see, it looks pretty good. Underneath it doesn't look as good, but that'll be fixed when I make the new cut. So what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to use the jigsaw. I'm going to make a cut following that line all the way across. And then when it's in two pieces again, I'll just glue it right back together. And the idea here is that the kerf that's being removed here follows both sides perfectly so that there'll be a perfect match when they go back together. When I glue it this time, I'm going to use the same glue again, but I'm going to be more careful about it. I'm going to glue this for good this time, so I'm going to put it on and spread it out evenly. And then once again, I can put it back together and clamp it up and leave it to set overnight, and then tomorrow it will be ready to sand. I left this to dry overnight, and I just took the clamps off and looked at it. It looks good. I do have one problem with the fit though, and that's kind of a mismatch on the sides here that's totally unavoidable, because you take one side and you take a little bit out of the middle. Of course, you're going to have some mismatch, but it's not that bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my block plane and I'm going to flush those up as best as I can with that. And then I'm going to sand the top and the places where that mismatch is with 100 grit paper just to get it down level. And then I'm going to switch to 220 grit, and that'll bring it down as smooth as I left it before. I have it all sanded, and I'm ready to renew the finish in the places that I sanded. Last time I used Danish oil for this. This time I'm just going to use linseed oil to do this. I don't need that kind of harder protection now, so I'm just going to use this. I'll pour it on here and just wipe it in. And you really have to look closely to be able to see where the crack was. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said at the beginning, it's a different way to fix a crack, that's for sure. It might not be for everyone, but it was what I wanted for this because I wanted to maintain that look that it had originally.